Good morning. It's good to be with you on this Monday morning. We're getting close to Christmas, y'all. About a week out. I hope you have bought all your Christmas stuff and are ready to go because we are. Yeah, y'all, it's close. We're about what 9 days out. So if you haven't done it, if you haven't done it yet, you need to go to the mall and just get what you need to get. I have not done it yet, so I'm speaking to myself because my family might be getting a lot of chewing gum and socks at this rate. So today we're going to pick up with John chapter 20, verses 24 through 29. I was talking to somebody recently. It's been very interesting. I hope you've got something out of this. I found it very interesting to read the crucifixion account and the resurrection, kind of running parallel to Christmas. Because we're in Advent now. We've been getting ready for Christmas. We've had all the Christmas stuff. We had our beautiful Christmas musical at church yesterday. It was a great day. And it's been interesting and fun to read the Christmas story, to experience the Christmas story while reading the crucifixion. I don't know. I've enjoyed the parallels and the juxtapositions between the two. So let's read chapter 20, verse 24 through 29. Now Thomas, also known as Didymus, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hand, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said to him, "My Lord, my God." Jesus said to him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." So there's our story of our boy Doubting Thomas. I've always thought it was significant how we think about people. You've heard me say this. I've talked about this before in Rooted. I've preached about this. Earlier in the Gospels, Thomas says when Jesus is getting ready to go to Jerusalem, he says they know going to Jerusalem is going to result in his death because they didn't like him. So Thomas, knowing that going to Jerusalem was going to be bad, says to the disciples, "Let us go to with him that we may die with him." Okay? So Thomas is willing to go with Jesus to Jerusalem and suffer the fate of death if necessary. Yet we don't refer to him as brave Thomas, do we? No, we don't remember the bravery. We instead remember this. This is that we refer to him as Doubting Thomas. And there's a lot here. Our boy Thomas, like something I always feel like we're tough on Thomas. By the way, you know what? You know where Thomas died? He died in India. After the resurrection, Thomas went all over the world preaching the gospel, and he took the good news of Jesus Christ to India. So our boy did all right for himself. But we see here he was not with the disciples. Earlier in the story in verse 19, we see Thomas. So we see Jesus come to the disciples and speak to them, and Thomas is not with them at this point. Um, And so now he comes and says, "Hey guys," they said, "We've seen him." He says, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hand and put my fingers where the nails were and put my hand where his side, I will not believe." And Thomas Dewey died. And to hear someone say this person you saw dead is now alive, that's a lot, friends. Let's let's consider what we would do in those situations. Once again, we read the story of the resurrection. We read the story of Jesus having looked back on it with thousands of years. We know the stories. We're aware of all this. We read it in that way. They were living it at that time. So Thomas knew Jesus was dead. That's what he knew. And he hears people saying, "Oh, he's alive, he's alive, he's alive." He's like, guys, I gotta see this. I gotta see this. I gotta understand this. I gotta see what happened. If he's alive, then I want to experience it. So Jesus comes again when they're together, Thomas with them, says, "Peace be with you. See this, reach out, touch it, stop doubting and believe." Of course, Thomas sees, and Jesus said, "Blessed those who have not seen yet believe." I want every one of my questions answered. That's just how I am. I'm, I may I may want to defend Thomas because I resonate with Thomas. Because I feel like if I was a disciple, I would be like Thomas. I'm going to always bring, hopefully, reason, hopefully, to the conversation. I'm going to always want to think through things. I'm very rarely do I rush headlong into something. I want to stop and consider things, consider the consequences of our actions. I want to stop and consider what we're doing before we do something. I think that's a good thing to do. So Thomas says, guys, I understand, but I need to see. And Jesus says, you've seen, you've touched, you've experienced, you've felt. Stop doubting and believe. It's important to remember when Jesus appeared to you. And I don't mean, well, maybe he has physically appeared to you. I don't know your story. Maybe for some of us today, we've had a divine encounter with Jesus in a way. Those things happen. But every one of us watching this video or listening to this podcast, every one of us has experienced Jesus in some divine way. We have. Every one of us has. We have. Or else we wouldn't believe. Every one of us has. Maybe through communion, maybe through worship, maybe through reading scripture, maybe through a sermon, maybe through just stepping out in faith. Every one of us, we may not have physically put our hands into the wounds where the nails were. We may not have physically done what Thomas did, but every one of us, if you're a Christian, every one of us has experienced Jesus in some way. We have. And I'm not saying it's some amazing divine Julie of Norwich encounter, but you've taken communion before and felt something, or been in worship and felt something. You've read scripture and had something jump out to you, or speak. You've had a prayer that you prayed get answered. Every one of us. Stop doubting and believe. Stop doubting and believe. And I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm speaking to you because I tend to doubt. Stop doubting and believe. I had the Lord this past week do something that I'm like, well, Lord, I guess you're just going to do what you're going to do, aren't you? I can come up with every reason why you won't do it. I can come up with every excuse. I can come up with everything. And Lord, you're just gonna do what you're gonna do. So eventually, I've got to just stop doubting and believe that Jesus is gonna do what he said he was gonna do. So for those of us today that can sometimes be too rational with our faith, those of us sometimes that want a little bit too much evidence, and those of us that want to prove everything or know everything or have everything figured out or have all the answers or know all the codes or all that. Those of us who are like Thomas that we want to put our hand in the wound before we want to know. We want to know. We won't we'll follow you, Jesus, but we want to make sure first. Remember when he showed up. Remember today when he moved. Remember when he spoke to you. Remember when he appeared to you. Remember when you encountered him. Remember these things, y'all. Remember them. Remember them. Remember them. Stop doubting and believe. Stop doubting and believe. Jesus wants to do something amazing. He has already done amazing things. He wants to continue. May we believe in what we have seen and what we've experienced. May we hold fast to Jesus. May we believe. Thanks for being with us today. Have a great rest of your day.